right, I'll call the meeting to order. First on the agenda is the minutes from our last meeting, January 31st.
I have one thing,
Go ahead.
line 131. On conclusion of the discussion, can we change it to the BOS voted on the following motion? Because the motion was made previously prior to the discussion. We didn't make the motion twice.
Okay, upon conclusion of the discussion,
The BOS voted on the following motion.
Line 131.
Mhm.
Conclusion of the discussion, the following motion was made.
Cross out the following motion was made.
Yeah.
And replace it with the Board of Selectmen voted on the following motion. Because we had made that motion previously. Prior to the discussion.
right,
And then I'll make a motion to,
on line 99, it says the motion was made back on this page. We already had made the motion to recommend it, and then we had that long discussion,
then we voted on it.
so we voted on it again. We voted on it.
And I'll make the motion to approve the minutes
Oh, wait, did you have anything?
No.
Oh, okay,
of the 31st as amended.
all those in favor?
Aye. Motion to approve the non-public meeting minutes as presented.
All those in favor?
Aye. Nice job. Thank you, Jane.
Yes, thank you.
Yeah, no, you did a great job on the minutes, very thorough. So they look great.
You made us look good again.
Yeah, you could have done. Keep up the good work.
All right, we have some special warrant articles.
Yeah, the special articles, and you also have, some finalized, you need to revote on the long-term debt. I don't know if you remember the discussion from the last budget committee meeting where we found out that our additional payments apply differently. Schedule had to vote on long-term debt. And then.
All right, let's get now through each of the special warrant articles. Make sure we're on board.
Hey, OJ,
Yeah,
you guys are not coming in very well at all on your audio tonight.
thank you.
Thank you. We'll just move it closer.
Well, we downloaded the instructions to this thing and are trying different variations.
Oh, I can hear you now. I'm just kidding, Corinne. That was good. I could hear you as you got closer, but
Well, the screen went black, Paul, so I thought I did something. Let's try
is
Did
that
it make, did it
that
make
any
any
better?
difference?
Is
Give
this
me a
better,
test,
Paul?
so-
Let me-
Yeah, how's that sound?
that's a little better. Yeah, it's not. It's a little better. It's not a lot, but it's a little. Yep. I don't know. Is there a volume control on that? Yeah. If you're talking, I can't hear you. You went the wrong way.
That one,
Is that any better?
That's a little better. Yep. Yep.
Okay, good.
all right.
Sorry about that.
No,
Yeah,
thank
I'd
you. We
rather know now
appreciate
than
it.
halfway through,
Yeah.
yeah.
No, thank you for that. Okay.
I don't think I printed out the final page for you because these were your final copies. So let me grab, oh, perfect. right
We
here.
have that,
We have 'em.
so we don't really need it on this
No,
until
okay.
we go through, because some of
Right,
these
right.
are one or the other.
Yeah.
Right.
All right, so the first one is to see if the town vote to raise and appropriate the sum of $4 million for the Campus World property.
We already did that.
And we already, the selectmen and the budget committee recommend this article. That one's done.
And I had that first on the warrant.
It has to.
It has to be because it's a bond,
Right.
yeah.
All right,
But I think we should talk about when we talk about these special warrant articles, where they are on the warrant.
Yes.
Because I think that plays into.
Sure. Sure.
okay. All right. The next one is $62,000 for the library's front steps.
And the
And then
next one
the
is,
next one is $30,000 for the library front steps. Now, the budget committee recommended the 30,
Correct.
so that's what's going on the warrant, correct?
Did they recommend it or did they just reduce it
They recommended it at the 30,000.
at the
Right.
30?
Right.
So the budget committee, this one,
But has the 62,000 gone by petition?
no,
No,
Okay,
No, that was our recommendation.
right,
So if we don't do anything, it's gonna go before the town at the $30,000 level, recommended by the
budget committee.
budget committee. And then we haven't recommended it at that level. So I assume it would say not recommended by the board, and we'd get up and say, well, we didn't recommend it because we recommended 62.
well, we have to decide whether we recommend it or
Well,
not.
well, didn't we say that they were gonna come back with some additional quotes?
That's what the budget committee said.
They're
They
hoping to have
requested-
that
I
for
thought-
the meeting though, not for
Uh,
this week,
Right,
Okay, I thought that Wayne said that they were getting, he would suggest that. they
For
get
town
additional
meeting.
quotes.
They're gonna try to get additional quotes to, if Carol can procure additional quotes by town meeting time, then the motion can be amended on the floor to be increased or
Right.
decreased
Yeah,
or,
right.
whatever.
Yeah.
Anyone sees fit, I guess.
and for that reason, I would recommend the 30,000,
that the board approved that.
correct, other than the 62,
That's what
because
I
it
would
can be
agree.
amended.
And I would
And
agree,
even if they double it and it goes back to 62,000, it's not gonna affect the 10% bottom line, so,
correct.
yeah.
All right, do you want to make that as a motion?
I'll make a motion that we recommend the 30,000 for the library front steps.
And that we do not recommend the 62,000.
Correct.
Yeah,
that's my
62
motion.
won't even go on at this
Okay.
point.
Right,
Yep.
Is that a second?
Second,
All right, all those in favor?
aye,
All right, so
and yes, and that, can we put that towards the bottom?
So
Before the next petition warrant article, but after the capital reserves.
So right now, the only warrant article we have to vote on that's not a capital reserve or a special warrant article is the operating budget.
Okay,
So right now I have Campers World first, operating budget second, obviously.
mhm,
And then I was thinking that we add the special warrant articles in then before the capital reserves. That was my thought process behind that is capital reserves are pretty standard and they usually receive a lot of report from town meeting and they're kind of traditionally done last.
and those
right?
get banged out.
And those get banged out. So I was thinking, if we're gonna have discussion, let's have discussion at the beginning of the meeting.
more
Let's
people are
hash it all out while more people are there.
Okay,
And in the event there's a secret ballot that's asked or anything along those lines, it would
Gotcha.
start the hour clock at the beginning of the meeting versus.
Good
the end of
call.
the meeting.
good call.
So, but we can rearrange them how we want, but my thought was, let's get all those special warrant articles.
So the
banged out
only ones
first.
we have then are the petition for 150 and the town hall steps. These other ones are pretty standard, the highway block grant, the cruiser,
You got it, yeah.
you know, establishing 2,500 for the audio video.
Yeah, I even put that
CIP.
as a capital reserve too, because I figure that's kind of goes with the capital
with the
reserve.
capital.
Yeah.
reserve,
You could put that at the top of the capital reserve if you want.
Sure, I think I have that, at the bottom right now, but I can put it to the top. It doesn't matter. Like I said, I kind of just kept that with the capital reserves because it was a capital reserve. But I was thinking if there were any discussion like the library front steps, we should probably have it earlier in the meeting versus later in
Yeah.
the meeting.
I think that's fair.
So do you want to put those that after the operating budget?
That's up to you all.
That's
I'm
what I've been
fine with
doing.
that.
After the operating budget, do the library steps first.
Okay,
Mhm.
Um,
And then the
let's do
petition,
this, the cruiser second.
that's what I have right now. This is cruiser second too.
so wait
um,
a minute, so we have 1, 2,
And then the
3,
The
so the
other one we'd
cruiser would be
have-
4, right? Number 4.
Oh, yeah, because Campers World is technically one.
Yeah.
okay, all right, one. And so two would be operating.
Yep.
Yep.
Number 3 would be the library steps, number 4 would be the cruiser.
That's what I have exactly, yep. And then number
You want
5,
number 5 is the highway block
Block
grant.
grant, sure.
okay,
Um. And then
Number
the
6.
petition,
that's what I,
Then let's do there's one budget article, petitioned article, and there's one non-budget
the
petition.
non-budget one, I don't,
Let's do the budget one next, which would be
Number
number
6.
6.
okay,
All right, and now we need to act on that, so let's do that right now as we're going through. To see if the town votes to raise and appropriate the sum of $150,000 to be used to construct a covered structure at the Kank Rec area. And to further fund this appropriation by authorizing the withdrawal of $150,000 from the unassigned fund balance as of December 31st, 2023. No amount to be raised by general taxation. This warrant article will be a non-lapsing appropriation for RSA 3276 and will not lapse until the structure is complete or December 31st, 2026, whichever comes first, by petition. Do we want to recommend this?
The budget committee voted to not recommend, it,
Okay,
correct, just so you know.
okay, that's good to know.
Uh, But I would like it if the selectmen did recommend it. And I made the mistake. In the article, the first line where it says the rec department has been trying since 2019, it's actually 2016 that they've been trying to get this funded through the CIP and were unsuccessful. The CIP committee did put $100,000 in the Kank Rec building. CIP.
Mhm,
They put nothing in the covered structure
mhm.
CIP. There's currently 45,000 in there. It's on here, 45,000 in there.
45,431.
Right. I think both of you were at the meetings at the Kank and the cover structure was talked about and mentioned. It would be nice to incorporate that covered structure into the renovations that are going to be done at the Kank to, to accommodate and to have the, architect know that there's a budget for that and he can do the plans together as one would be great. I had zero confidence that the covered structure was gonna get funded anytime soon. And it makes more sense to have it done together than it does to not have it designed together. I don't know if I said that right.
Mhm.
And it's important, even aside from all that. Last summer at the Kank, when it was 90 degrees out and lightning and raining like crazy, and we stuffed all of those kids and all those counselors in that oven of a building, was brutal. It was brutal. If we had the covered structure, they could have been under the covered structure and safe and not sweating to death. I mean, it's just, and that's one instance of, I could go on all night long about all the separate instances that happens. The covered structure isn't needed in the winter at all. It's, unless we do ice skating or make a rink or something eventually, utilizing that. But in the summer, it is extremely necessary and it's needed now. It was needed years ago, but I mean, it's not something that can wait until 2030, 6 or 8 years from now. It's needed now. And those that have kids that go to day camp in the summer wholeheartedly agree with that. It's brutal in that building when it's thunder and lightning and it's raining and it's 90 degrees. And you've got 2 windows that can accommodate a fan that literally blow side by side. It's just brutal. It's definitely something that is extremely necessary and needs to happen sooner rather than later. For that reason alone.
Now, this doesn't say it, but that's gonna be 12-ish cents on the tax rate, 12 cents.
It'll be 0, because it's, no, it's
Right.
it's unassigned fund balance.
That's
Yeah,
why.
0.
All right. If we use that same $150,000 to lower the tax rate, it would lower it by 12 cents. I mean, to be
But
honest,
we didn't.
right, we didn't,
But we didn't.
and I know someone who wanted to.
And I'm the only one that wanted to.
Um,
Yes, you're right.
but that's what that really equals.
Mhm.
You know, whether we raise it in taxes or use it from what we're gonna lower taxes by next year, it's 12 cents on the tax rate.
So are our children worth 12 cents on the tax rate, OJ,
12 cents per thousand.
per 1,000?
Yeah.
I won't say anything about hating children and candy, just saying.
You wanna weigh in?
Yeah, I've had two grandchildren that use the facility and they love the facility. I don't know if $150,000 is the right number though. I mean, I know we've looked at a product, we've talked about it before. And I just don't know if we need to expend, because I've heard from people that now are saying, you know, I don't use that, my kids don't use that. And, you know, why are we spending that and not reducing the tax rate? And I'm saying it's minimal impact on the tax rate. I said, because it's coming out of the unexpected reserve. So and again, I would love to see a master plan here. I know we had those meetings and Stuart Anderson was going to, you know, come up with something. So, you know, I'd like to see a master plan before we collectively put in that much money there. Now we're putting in over, what, $250,000 all told down there, I think, this year.
No,
Looked at this.
100. There's 100 and
Yeah, but
with
you
this,
said-
would be
With this,
250.
it would be
Right, sorry,
250,
sorry, yeah.
a $250,000
Yeah, okay.
down.
Yeah.
So I mean, when you're spending that kind of money, in my opinion, I think we should have a master plan so that we don't put something in and then after the fact say, oh geez, we should have pitted it over here because we're gonna have to move this to move that. I mean, you know, and like I say, is it needed? Well, something's needed. I don't know if this is the total solution. You know, if we could put something smaller, some type of, you know, a horses running, a lean-to, something like that, which I built. You know, I have mixed emotions about it, Timmy, only because what I'm hearing feedback from people. And, you know, I know that some of the people have said, yeah, my kids participate and they need it, you know, and then others have said, no, never gonna need it. Why the hell did we did it? When I was a kid, we played out in the field there. I grew up in this town. My grandfather grew up in this town. You know,
I can tell you in about the 40-something years since that building's been there, the only real thing that's been done to it is roof, period. It's got the same original floor, same walls. We did put in LED lights, and put some paint, and new carpet upstairs, but that's it. That's all that's been done.
No.
Actually, I bought the tile for the bathrooms that Rotary put on the building. I bought the tile, I bought the hand warmers, the hand dryers, so that there wasn't paper towel everywhere. It's, you know, personally, out of my own checkbook, not town money. And it's based on, have you been to Dowfield in Franconia? It's based on theirs.
Yes.
Now, I took their measurements, I believe it's 30 by 60, and plugged it in to an online, construction generator, yes,
Estimator.
estimator, thank you. With no frills, no frills. I didn't include water and I didn't include electricity, which is why the building is at 188 and we're gonna end up with 194 or 5 or something like that at the end, hopefully to put in water and power, so they can have fans and some lights or whatever. When I put it in, I did no frills. I did with this zip code, with cement, and a post and beam structure. I didn't even add the closets in the corner like Dowfield has, just all open. Do you know what I mean? Basic construction, asphalt shingles, nothing extraordinary, nothing over the top, just your basic building materials, with a post and beam structure. And that's what came out. I didn't pick it out of thin air. I got it online.
Well, and I think when we discussed this at the budget committee level, I think Paul's on, so he'll chime in and tell me if I'm wrong, but Paul had the original proposal from when Tara brought it up in like 2019 or 2020.
And that was
And they
120.
spent 120 in 2019 when they built it. So
In Franconia,
in Franconia.
Prior to the pandemic.
right, that's
Right,
what she
that's what I'm
said.
saying, that's what I'm saying.
119, 116,000, 120,000 roughly.
Right.
is
Am I
what
right,
they
Paul? Was
spent
that
up
right?
there.
You're
Hang
muted.
on. Yeah, it back in, I think, 2 years ago, what would that have been?
Prior to
20
the pandemic, it was
2020, 2021, it was $116,000. That was for the one in Duffield. But, and that was 30 by 60.
Yes,
Um,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, Tammy's right with what she's saying, and yeah, I mean, in a lot of regards, but one of the things that we talked about a lot of things we talked about in the budget committee, but there's a lot of volunteerism that's gone into that building. And most of that building was done by volunteers. Matter of fact, probably 95%. And I mean, what Jack says is spot on, without having to plan. That was basically what the budget committee was looking at the other night. I mean, there's $140 some odd thousand, $43,000 in there now. If you put the 150 in there, you're looking at 290, almost 300,000 without even a plan. I mean, it really, and I don't think I'm misrepresenting. I think most of the people in that budget committee meeting the other night were all about, there's enough money to do the coverage structure. I've done building all my life. Jack probably has too. I mean, I really think the number between volunteerism and with the town doing, the public works doing what they typically do, which is really pitching in and helping, I think that number is probably somewhere around 100 today. I mean, I think the public works can do the water conduit. Sorry. They could do the excavation for the concrete. I mean, they can do a lot. And like I said, the volunteerism that's been so happily done up there. When we were at both those meetings, there was people like Mike Reardon and Mr. Martin and other people who work on the snowmaking stuff that do stuff gratis. And I mean, the Kank is really lucky in that regard. So that's kind of why they, I believe, went to the not recommending it. But I'll let Tammy finish the rest of that out.
just to clarify, there isn't 145 in it. There's 100 for the building to cover what was discussed in those meetings, to start covering it anyway. The 45 is in for the covered structure.
Right,
And
right.
the
But wait a minute,
150
Tammy.
Hang on a minute, Paul. The 150 for the warrant article to come out of the unexpended fund balance. Now, if all these people show up and help us out and we only spend 20, the 130 goes back into the unexpended fund balance.
Stays in it.
It
Stays
doesn't,
Right.
it stays in it, right?
Right.
It's not like we can take it, the 150 and spend it on dugouts or whatever. It's
correct.
only for this, and what isn't used stays right there. So if we get all these people to pitch in and help and volunteer and do things, then great, we won't spend the whole 150. However, if no one shows up, that's what we're gonna need.
One thing.
Oh.
Go
Hold
ahead,
on,
Paul.
hold
Go
on,
ahead,
Paul.
Paul. Go ahead, Paul.
No, right. You're the selectman. Go ahead.
No, you've given me 2 compliments so far, so go ahead. I'm looking
Any
for a
two-
third.
No, look, all I'm trying to say is,
Right.
Yeah, go ahead, Paul.
and Karina can substantiate this, but when we were at the CIP, we were torn between where we were going to put that $100,000 because, as you all know, we had the amount that was required for this year was less, so we were looking at where we could put it to at least bring it flat. And what we said was, look, why don't we put some in the Kank Rec, because they've got some things they want to do there, and and we didn't want to just put it just in the coverage structure. But if they want to do that coverage structure, we created this whole new account line 109, and we put the $100,000 in that, saying, look, you could take that $100,000 and the 40 some odd thousand dollars you got in coverage structure. If you want to do that, you could do the coverage structure, and if you could get it for less, then you would still have some money left over. And then if you go by what OJ just said, you could take that $150,000 and put it towards the tax rate and lower it by a few cents.
Tried, didn't work.
I know. I kind of like that thought, OJ.
One of the things at the public hearing, though, I thought, from what I heard from a lot of the volunteers and some of the families that use it, coaches, et
Oh, in the
cetera,
meetings, yeah.
was that there were other priorities beyond that, i.e. the bathrooms, i.e. a second means of egress, and, sprucing up, I think you mentioned the concrete floor and things like that. So I thought that was the priority, not this. this was secondary to many people's minds, Tammy. But again,
I agree. I don't disagree with you there at all.
Well,
That's what that $100,000 is gonna go towards doing those things.
Right.
And the covered structure is more for summer,
I'm gonna have
the summer camp, which was grossly underrepresented there. And I mean, you have to admit, the bulk of the people there were winter tank users, which is awesome. I mean, I'm a winter tank user myself. I'm there almost every day after school with kids, because I like kids. But it's definitely something that is very needed in summer. And someone mentioned, well, why don't you have a tent? Twice we've tried tents, and there's some sort of a vortex or something that they said, two tents have been completely destroyed. Like there was one
I'm
that
just laughing at the
vortex, that's what they called it. It's, one of them had wooden poles or posts that got thrown into the road from behind the tank. They were in the road into Forest Ridge, yeah, and not quite to the bench on the hill. I mean, it was just crazy. The second one was metal poles, and they were literally bent over, like big, thick metal poles bent. You cannot have a tent
Oh.
there, tents don't work.
Go ahead, Paul.
you know, Jake, you've had experiences with tents in the parking lot down in the mill. I mean, you used to run the clothing thing there all summer long. I mean, you know, the tents aren't that bad. I really don't care about any of that. I think one of the things that happened here was originally the structure was slated to be done in 2030. And then it came up the need that we really need it now. So, and that's why the money wasn't put in there for years, because it was originally like a 2030 date on it. And then Tara said, hey, look, you know, and Tammy said, people said, hey, these kids really need a place to get out from underneath the sun. So that's why we did what we did. And I mean, there at those meetings, you were there. I mean, they were talking about a ski tuning room. They were talking about, what else was there? A deck. So I mean, there's some plans there, you know, doing things with the upstairs or moving the candy window or however the food thing is going to work. But as Jack said, I mean, to have a plan would really go really well, you know, and then you could plan for the money you need to put in there, you know, or if you want to put it in all at once and get it done. I mean, I think this whole thing really truly started as I think Tammy said it was $2 million request, right, Tammy, originally? So it was pared down and different
No,
things.
that is not true. Not true at all. We've been trying since 2016 to fund this, and the
But wasn't it $2 million
$20
request?
The recreation director was asked to come up with a figure of what it would cost to replace the building if the building needed replacing. And that's what she did. She went online with the square feet of the building, and to build that building ADA compliant and, with all of the requirements that for a government building to have, it was $2 million. And that was, again, put into a calculator, construction calculator. And that's what it came out, right around the $2 million mark. It had nothing to do with this request or any other request. She was asked to come up with a figure, and that's what it was.
Okay, I stand corrected then. So I thought that's what was said the other night, but
And
I mean, in any
2030
event, there's still plenty of money to put a shelter there, put that covered pavilion there, currently within that budget. And that's just using the 100,000 and the 43. That's not using any other money out of the CIP. So
That's absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. But that leaves $0 to do any of the other required
that's
work
not true.
to be done there.
That's not true, Tammy. If you get a bunch of volunteerism and you build that shelter for 50,000, it leaves you 100,000 to do the other things with. So, I mean, I don't know how you can say that, because you don't know what you're going to get for volunteerism. I mean, that's.
Oh, I do know
and-
what we're gonna get. I can tell you what we're gonna get, because as a result of those meetings, we have a volunteer sign up sheet at the Kank. As a result of those meetings, and people were told, if you want to volunteer at the Kank, come on, you can do it anytime you want to come clean a bathroom, come clean it. I do that. And anytime you want to come sit upstairs with kids so that they can play upstairs, I do that too. My name is the only name on that volunteer sheet. So I know who's gonna show up, Paul. I do.
Well,
And if we use the 150 and no one shows up, the 145 that's in there, that leaves nothing for the required and necessary repairs and improvements that need to be done to the existing building.
I don't know about required. What's required? I didn't hear, it's the first I heard about
The
required.
rebar sticking through the floor, that needs to be fixed. That's a requirement. That's not a want. That is a need. I could go on and on, but,
Yeah, let's
Mhm.
cut to the chase on
I
this.
don't want to believe, but I'm sorry, I just,
right, thank you,
Yep.
Paul.
I mean, I was trying to portray what the budget committee said the other night, that's all.
All right, well, thank you. So the budget committee is not gonna recommend this. You know, again, I think the people are gonna vote for it or against it based on their own thoughts, not what we say.
Agreed.
You know, I don't think, with that being said, I guess in my opinion, the main building, I think is the priority. It's year round, that summertime they use it, wintertime they use it. I want to keep that the main priority.
That's already
But-
in there. That's already in the CIP for the
I
meeting.
get it, I get it. If people want to do this, what I consider this still a lower priority thing, but move that up and do that at the same year, and they vote for that. Again, it's 12 cents on the tax rate. It's not gonna, in my opinion, make or break the town.
Well, I'll make a
So-
motion that selectmen support, recommend this
Okay, do
petition warrant article.
you want to second that?
I'll second.
All right, are we ready to vote?
Mhm.
All those in favor vote aye.
Aye,
Aye. Aye,
thank you.
all right. So,
And that's gonna be number 6.
number 6. All right, then the only other one that we haven't discussed is the petition article pertaining to the elections by using paper ballots. First of all, is that binding? Is that a binding vote? I mean, I don't know.
Has anyone checked with the Secretary of State on that one? That's gotta be one of the towns that has.
For some reason, I think it is binding because I think the other communities, that had them presented with this scenario last year, I think most of them were voted down, but I guess I can,
Excuse
I
me.
guess I can confirm with DRA if that's a binding vote or if that's a,
Why wouldn't it be fine, do you think?
I just don't know, my
I don't
honest
know if they
opinion, I
can-
don't know if it's in the purview of the
Of
town meeting body.
Right.
To tell the town how to operate, they can't, they can vote. Like, you know, we wanna hire. So-and-so to be the police chief. It'd be 100% of people vote yes for that, we're not bound to that,
Right.
No,
okay?
and the moderator is technically the elected official that's responsible for running voting. So I don't know if they can, I guess,
make the moderator do it
make
a
the
certain way.
moderator do something along those lines. I don't know, that's a good question. I guess I can,
I guess
I'll do
that-
a little research on
All
that.
right,
Okay.
let's question that.
Okay.
Jane,
I'll make the motion that the selectmen do not recommend this article.
I'll second that.
Is there any discussion?
Mhm.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Now, where do
All
you
right,
want
well,
this? Yeah,
that's the bigger
I
question.
know.
Do we want to put this up front when there's more people there, or do we want to leave this till the end? It's not a money article. It's generally, these are the types of things that go at the end,
I'd say we stick with what we normally do.
and just put it at the end.
That's where I have it right now. It's
Yeah.
the last thing we vote on.
All
And
right.
I also think if we get clarification of whether it's binding or not, if it's not binding, that's where it should be then, is at the end. Because it's just a essentially advisory or,
Right.
you know,
And if it is binding,
I still think we should put it at the end. I
when
mean,
do these go to the printer?
I would like to have it done by the end of the week. You know, my goal was if you guys were okay with it, to print out the finalized copies tomorrow, get the signatures from you all and the budget committee. It has to be posted by, it has to be posted not until the 26th, but we have to get it to the printer
To
for
the
the town
printer, yeah.
reports sooner than that. You could always make a motion on the floor to move the warrant articles around.
Oh, yeah, good, that's right. Why don't we do that? We'll stick with this then, and if we have to move it, we can.
All right,
Okay.
we'll put it last then.
Yep,
Okay.
that works. Thank you.
Paul, did you have something?
You're muted.
We can't hear you. I saw you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I had to step away. Could you tell me what that article was again? I didn't catch it.
You want me to read
Yeah,
it?
yeah,
It's
go
a
ahead, read it.
petition that says, shall the following provisions pertaining to elections be adopted? All voting shall be by paper ballot and all ballots shall be hand counted only, rather than by use of optical scanning or any other types of programmable electronic counting devices. This shall constitute a return to hand counting ballots and the immediate discontinuance of all electronic voting machines and electronic devices authorized for use by trial in RSA 656:40. Shall this article be passed, it shall be enacted by the town of Lincoln immediately. By petition.
Now, is that had 25 signatures?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay. All right. First I've ever heard of it. Thank you.
thank you.
All right, also in our packet is all the planning board articles, but that's, I assume just for our
Just for your
information,
reference, yeah,
because
for your
those
reference.
get voted on during the day.
Right.
We cannot approve or disapprove,
Correct.
Right.
recommend or not recommend those.
Correct.
It's the planning board's purview, so, but they're there for us to
Thank you.
see what's up with that.
Before you move along in the budget, can you also revisit the long-term debt?
Oh, thank you.
So just essentially to recap, when we originally submitted our extra payment, that was voted on last year for the surplus proceeds from the bonds, we were given one amortization schedule in October when we did that, and then we were given another one, a few weeks ago that differed by that $15,000 and change. So after confirming, with Bank of New Hampshire of what our true schedule is, we need to increase the long-term debt to $717,496.
I'll make a
And
motion.
just,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
okay, make a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the long-term term debt at $717,496.
You want to second that?
Thank you.
Second,
And just to a little more detail. Originally, the thought was that they were gonna take that off the principal and readjust our annual payments.
Yes,
When in fact, what they did is they chopped the last payment,
last two payments.
two payments
Yeah.
off at the end.
Right.
So that our annual amounts didn't change. It's just that we're now paying it off 2 years sooner. So we're,
We're gonna actually pay it off in 2027 versus 2029.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that makes total sense
Fine,
to me. That's a
yeah.
good way to do it.
Sure.
It, it frees up debt
Right.
down the
Quicker.
line.
Yeah,
Right.
exactly.
All right. So we have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right,
Thank
that's
you for that.
unanimous.
Awesome.
Is that all you needed for budget stuff? then?
That's all I need for operating budget. Yep.
Thank
Okay,
you.
so the operating budget is all done then by us and by the budget committee.
Correct.
And are we going with the same amounts all the way through? Is there anything that they
No.
changed that we have not changed?
Yes.
The only thing that would be different is the 150,000 that you voted on
Special warrant article.
this evening.
Yeah, but operating budget.
Operating budget, no, you're identical for operating budget. You're identical for reserve and trust articles. You are now going to be identical for special warrant articles because you just reduced it for the library steps.
Okay,
And then, petition warrant articles, you will vary by that 150 that you just voted on.
okay. That is not showing up
That's not showing up on that.
It
sheet.
will.
on either budget committee or us.
No, correct. Well, the
Okay.
budget committee won't show it because they do not recommend it. It will just
Oh,
show up
right,
on
right.
BOS.
Sure,
Yeah.
Got it. Got it.
So I'll, print you out a new cover sheet and a new, capital reserve sheet
Thank
based
you.
on the votes this evening and give it to you, next Tuesday for the bond hearing.
Heck of a-
Correct.
Next Tuesday's bond hearing, I will be zooming.
Okay.
Awesome. The bonds. Budget stuff.
Okay, that's just a note. So in our folders, we got one signed,
I just wanted you to see.
just see the language,
Language,
right?
exactly.
but all of the signatures come in on different
Petition.
Right,
pages.
yeah,
pages. Every signature is a different page.
yeah, and there were 33 in
So
total.
this is a 33-page document. Glad you didn't make a 33-page
Yeah.
copy with the same thing except for the signature. Thank you. All right, do we want to move into town manager's report then? Sure.
Okay, so first on the list, we received a request from Longfellow to sign off on their letter of map revision to FEMA in regards to the proposed rapids development. The new FEMA maps that just took effect last week did not take into account the rebuilt levee, even though FEMA was involved throughout the whole levee process. Longfellow's request to FEMA is to remove the land from the flood zone and floodway mapping based on the existing conditions. I informed Scott at Longfellow that I would need to discuss this with the board because I wasn't comfortable signing the documentation without concurrence from the board, and also because there's very specific language in the community concurrence section that says, based on the community's review, we find the completed or proposed project meets or is designed to meet all the community floodplain management requirements, including the requirements for when fill is placed in the regulatory floodway, excuse me, and that all necessary federal, state, and local permits have been, or in the case of conditional, will be obtained. Further down, it says for letters of map revision, which this is, I acknowledge that compliance with section 9 and 10 of the ESA has been achieved independently of FEMA's process. ESA is an environmental service or environmental Endangered Species Act, excuse me. So I was not comfortable signing off on that. So I did reach out to Scott and explained, and he was very accommodating and said that he'd be willing to come and discuss it with the board. He says there is no proposed project at the time. It's just to change the maps down there. But I imagine that even though they're saying there is no proposed project, there is a proposed project because we've all know the rapids.
Right.
Even though it's conceptual at this state, right? But that was his explanation, is that they're not putting forward a project as in, here's where the hotel is going to go, or here's where tennis courts are going to go. It's essentially to revisit that whole property and potentially take some pieces out of either the floodplain or the flood zone. So,
I mean, this is a source of contention with the previous owner of that property, the floodplain and the flood
Yeah.
maps and what have you. I think personally that, before the town ends up in another lawsuit, we should get the feds involved and let them, determine through their agencies what should or should not be done. I mean, that would be my recommendation.
I think the letter of map revision requires community concurrence.
Right, and that is the process of getting the feds involved.
Right.
That's an application that says, we want you to
We
take a
want you to
closer
take a
look.
look at this.
It is this, because when they did the maps, they did the whole town. I've gone through this process before with a piece of land. And it's like, okay, you did this whole section of river. Now I want you to come back and look at my little section, and I want to show you that, there are heights and lows of my particular piece of land that aren't in this general zone category. This is out of it, this is in it, etc., depending on the height of the land. So a little more background information. When this was being done, the levee had not been fixed. We were in a lawsuit with the landowner, and FEMA said that they're gonna, because the levee is designed to weep, water can go.
Spillway, yeah.
Okay, that they were gonna just ignore it in their analysis, with the assumption that because it weeps, whether it's, been fixed or not fixed, they're gonna assume that water can weep right through it and flood the land. So they were looking at this as if it wasn't even there.
Mhm.
So that's what the That's what the FEMA maps now show is the flooding potential.
Throughout
That
that whole
levee just
property.
wasn't there. The town was made aware of that assumption, and not that I thought that was smart or agreed with it. We, as a town, weren't gonna get involved with FEMA and a party that you
You were
could
already in.
consider a hostile party, because we were in a lawsuit with them
Right.
specifically about wetlands.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
So it was like, we're not
We're not touching that.
Mm.
now that this is done, it doesn't seem right to me, nor did it at the time, that when you build that big, huge granite block wall to come in and say, well, that's not gonna affect flooding, is a bit bizarre. But I also know that I'm not an engineer, and I don't wanna sign off on some of the towns, oh, we're good. Here's my thought. Scott Massili's a
Mhm.
certified engineer who's gonna come in and offer us some explanation for it. I would like to get Du Bois King and see if they can come in for the same meeting. Cause they're the ones who oversaw this project,
Mhm.
designed it.
And we
Yep.
did give
Over-
Longfellow permission to reach out directly to Du Bois and
yeah.
King and get the information directly from them. We did that a couple months ago.
Right.
Yep.
Right, but it would be good to have their engineer here,
Kind of.
cause you know how this works, is one engineer looks at it and tells you,
It's black,
A, E, and F, but doesn't talk about B, C, and D.
right.
You know, we want Du Bois and King here to talk about the points in between. And I'm not saying Scott will do that. I'm just saying that any two engineers can disagree, any two lawyers, any two people can
Yeah.
disagree on a set of facts. I think someone should be here to offer us some guidance, from the towns, defending the town's position versus the developer's position. If that's reasonable to Scott, and I would, you know, think it would be.
Yeah. He said he was more than willing to come in and discuss it with the board. He said,
Okay,
he was
let's
very,
Set up a date where
open to
he
that.
could come in with Du Bois King. And I would hope it would be one of the engineers who worked in this, just not some random person at Du Bois
Right.
King, I don't know if, I can't remember the guy's name. I
Bob
got it.
Durfee.
Bob Durfee.
Bob Durfee, thank
Mhm.
you. So I had 100 meetings with the guy.
I had the Bob, didn't have the Durfee, yeah.
If he can come in, that would be best, or the girl who was on site for nearly the entire project, and I don't remember her name.
Okay.
She was, in my opinion,
sure
on the
Nate will.
ball, and I don't remember her
Haley,
name.
Heather.
What is it?
something like Haley or Heather, something like that.
Sure Nate will remember.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah,
they'll know who,
absolutely,
who
yeah.
it is. If one of those people were, intimately involved in the project and protecting the town's interest would be really valuable, and I think that'd be a productive discussion.
Mhm.
So that's what I'm gonna recommend, if that's,
Yeah, no, I agree.
I think that's fair.
all right.
Okay, I'll reach out to Scott and I'll reach out to Du Bois and King and see if we can't have some sort of powwow together to kind of work through this all.
And if Scott has something in writing, I mean, I wonder if Du Bois King could actually, zoom in.
Sure,
If
right,
that
they don't
makes more
necessarily have to be
more
present, right,
sense.
yeah.
I think they should have something ahead of time to look at as far as what.
Well, I mean,
Longfellow was
so
proposing.
this document came with a bunch of other stuff too, a bunch of maps, a bunch of plans and
Okay,
whatnot. I just
okay.
printed out the ones that I thought
Okay.
I understood, but yeah, I mean, it was a whole Dropbox
Sure,
folder full
sure.
of
Okay.
stuff. So maybe we share that with Du Bois and King and they can review it and
Sure,
give us some guidance.
thank you. Good idea.
All right,
Okay, moving on, planning board warrant articles, we already kind of touched base on that. I just wanted to make sure we all had a copy of them, and if you have any questions, make sure. I'm sure OJ can answer them, or reach out to Carol and he can answer them. 2023 equalization rate, we received our final equalization rate from the Department of Revenue and for 2023, and it's 62.9. As previously discussed, we talked about this when we got the initial rate, the non-final rate. CMP does not think that the Department of Revenue will require a reval earlier than planned, as we are not the only town in
Yeah.
this scenario. Cindy also doesn't think that it's worth doing it early as the market is still pretty volatile. And because we are only 2 years out now until our reval year, if we were to do it next year, from 25 to 26, she said she just doesn't
That's
think
a
it's worth
scary
a
number.
while to do something.
That's a scary.
It's a very scary number, but we see it in the deeds. Becky's putting in the
Yeah,
deeds
yeah.
every single week, and we're
I
seeing
understand.
properties that we have assessed at 300,000, selling for 500,000, or selling for, so we see it, but it's a shocking number to see it on
It is,
paper.
it really is.
So,
But I will definitely agree with the professionals, because that I am not.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
that-
yeah, I feel like anyone who had done a reval in the last 5 years, it was almost a fruitless effort, I mean, but again, assessed values went up across town for the most part, so, I guess it wasn't a fruitless effort, because it brought us to that point at that time, but it was only a snapshot in time.
Right.
Um,
Every town has to do it within 5 years. And
Right.
this
Whether we want to or not.
Or we
this
want to-
increase of going up has been over a number of years. So,
Right.
I'm assuming 60
Mhm.
plus % of the state
Is in a similar
it
stage.
is similar.
I would agree.
Um,
So
And we still have 2 years.
we have 2 more years. Yeah, they'll start the, next year will be the last year of data collection, and then 26 will be the input year, and then the finalized year.
Mm.
So
That's
it's
not
not gonna
good.
get any better.
It's not good.
I mean, it's stabilized. You don't know the last
Yeah, but
year.
it's not a bad thing either. I mean, the only thing that would be bad is if one area of town or one class of properties,
Was exponentially higher.
was
or
going way
whatever.
up, which to be honest, I mean, it's the residential
Mhm. Mhm.
properties are increasing more than
Mhm.
commercial properties.
Right,
I would agree on that.
absolutely.
It is what it is.
It is what it is.
Yeah.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. AED installation at the transfer station. The Rotary, has one more AED that they would like to install at a location throughout, the 2 towns. The transfer station was identified as a potential location. Does the board have any issues with us installing it at the transfer station? I was assured that it would be at no cost to the town, other than the small amount of electricity it would be needed to keep the box somewhat warm throughout the winter months, so.
I think that's a good place for it.
I agree a lot. It's,
Lot of
yeah.
action.
There's a lot of action.
A lot of
yeah.
action.
So, now, should I reach out to Woodstock to get, or should I just, as a courtesy, let them know? or-
Absolutely.
Okay,
You definitely let them know.
Okay.
I don't.
I
if
don't
they're
see
gonna
this
have
being
this
a
year.
thing we need to vote on. If they have strong objections to this for
Sure.
whatever reason,
Right.
let us hear them.
Okay.
I mean,
Right.
Okay. Great. I'll
And
let them
unless
know.
they have strong objections, we're
Yeah.
fine with it.
My concern originally was that we were also told at the beginning of the new AED project here that it would be at no cost to the town, and then come to find out we had to buy a $2,000 AED. So I wanted to ensure, because we don't have it in the budget to buy another.
Wasn't it only because the current one that we have?
The one in our
was-
hallway is set to expire this
Expire,
year, so they
right.
didn't wanna move that one.
Right,
So now we have one in the hallway that's set to expire that we will potentially need to replace if we decide we wanna have
We
one
will need
inside,
to, right.
but. And then we had to buy one for the outside. I just wanted to ensure
But
that we
next
weren't
year-
having to buy one for over there,
but without that, next year we would have had to replace the one inside anyway.
just the inside one.
Right.
But now we have the potential to replace both of them.
No, I don't
unless-
think
Do
we
we
don't
need
need
one
two.
inside and one outside?
No,
I don't know,
absolutely not.
no.
I mean, I didn't. just-
They're 5 feet apart.
Yeah,
Does the
I mean,
police
I-
station have one downstairs?
Yes,
Yes,
So we've got 3 in the building.
currently.
only until it expires next year.
Yeah.
Right.
Right.
And
This
I
year.
agree
I
with,
think it's actually this year.
I think you're
24,
right,
yeah.
24.
okay.
I absolutely agree with buying the new one for outside
Yeah.
because,
We need one.
right, and they've got, well, a 5-year shelf life, is that
I
right? It's
don't
a
remember.
4
I
or
don't remember
5
the exact, yeah.
year shelf life, so this one would have had to be, I don't put one in that's gonna expire in 6 months, I'm gonna have to. So I agree with that, but once this one is expired, it can, well, you give it to the ambulance
Right.
and they use it for.
The only thing,
paging, but
I think we have talked about in-house is just making sure that we don't have to call 911 to get a code if something happens on the inside, that we can just go outside and open it and not have to call, 911. So we would have the access code. Because right now, if there's an emergency in town and someone needs that, they have to call 911 and 911 gives them a code to open it.
Open
up.
it, right.
So we are asking that if we could have a code, so we didn't have to go through that additional 60 seconds.
I think if
2-minute
that
process.
is possible, absolutely,
Right.
no question,
Right, okay.
yeah, no question.
All right, cool, we can do that. Forest Ridge Road bonds, we have received the continuation certificates
Good.
from New Jefferson's Holdings for both of the road bonds, both on-site and off-site road bonds. New Jefferson has asked that, taking over the road bond obligation be a condition of the new building permit for the new owner of the two foundations. I said I would relay the message.
Say that one more time. Taking over the road bond will be a condition for the new owner,
Mhm,
for a building permit.
mhm.
I should have been a condition of purchase, not, but that's not up to us, that's up to the planning board.
I agreed. I think it should have been a condition of, their explanation was it was bought a bankruptcy sale or a foreclosure
such a
sale and, yeah, and, I said I would relay the message to the select board.
Well, building permit would be planning board purview, correct?
But bonds are,
Well, first of all,
Right.
it should
planning-
not,
the
it should
plan-
not fall
Planning
back
board
on us.
oversees, applications for, development,
Developments, right.
okay? That's already been approved.
Mhm.
What they purchased was an
Already
approved,
approved, right.
an approved plan for, and they're just finishing it.
And two issued
Okay.
building permits,
Well, the building permits go to,
us, in-house.
yeah, but who gets the building permit? Is it the developer or is it the end user? I guess
Uh,
the developer.
The developer gets the building permits,
When he, and then would
or
sell
the
it,
contractor, either the developer or the contractor would get it,
Gotcha.
and then, right. It's not going away, but at least we have the continuations.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not going away. My suggestion to him is that when you are in conversations with the new owner over the road bonds, please let us know how they go. And he had said to me, that they don't have an intention to work out an agreement with the new owner and that they're hoping the board will make a condition of the permit.
I don't know how that would work. And the only reason is because although the selectmen have the authority over the road bonds, the planning board has authority over, or the planning department over permits,
no, we do.
building permits?
Selectmen.
You're the enforcement arm
Right,
for
they,
building.
they
Enforcement
approve,
of them,
right,
right.
they approve the plan,
Right. Yep,
but when they're done building,
you're
it's.
right.
the planning department
Enforcement of
comes
it,
in.
you're right.
I guess my problem is the bonds that were signed by both parties have specific triggers that release the bond.
Correct.
Can we just release them and make them take it over? I don't,
No, I think
Not
when we
there's any
discussed
legal
it at the
right.
time with
Oh.
council,
Mhm.
we said that we would be open to possible or alternative solutions. We would be open, but that we weren't saying yes or no to any of them, but we were hoping that the buyer and the seller could work together to figure out where this liability is falling, right? Who this is gonna be transferred to and not have to get us involved on that
Yeah.
side of things.
again, this should have been buyer and seller,
Mhm,
and in the event of bankruptcy, that's what the bond is there for, to protect the town,
mhm.
Right,
okay? And if they're gonna say, well, we can't do it because we filed bankruptcy, sorry, we'll go collect on the bond.
Mhm.
I.
Right.
The specific language that says what we can do to release the bond. And putting it on someone else's building permit is not one of them.
Well, no, and Forest Ridge wants us to, because the on-site road bond, it allows for only 25% of the total cost to complete the project, which right now is what was estimated was, it's gonna be 40 grand to put a top coat of pavement on there. 25% of 40 grand is $10,000. Forest Ridge Homeowners Association would like us to increase the bond for the full amount. I said, I don't we can't go back and change, revise the agreement at this time, without some sort of concurrence from either the new bondholder or the
Or
old
the old
bond,
one, right,
right,
right.
so, but as of right now, we have continuation certificates, they will expire at the end of this year, or at the end of October of this year. All right.
I thought Paul wanted to weigh in on that. I know he was involved.
I did,
Yeah.
OJ. I think the bond up there was to only be released by the planning board, if I'm not mistaken. Because the planning board put the bond in place, and I think the planning board was the one that was supposed to be to release the bond. We can check back in, like you said, on the, there's conditions upon their approval. And I think part of those are that the planning board releases the bond.
I don't know what the language exactly says, but I have to look
We can look it up, but I know it's triggered by the completion of
of the.
Correct,
the
Yes.
project,
Right.
including the roads, which it's not complete and the roads
Right.
haven't been done.
Right,
So,
that's-
Right.
foundation Still.
Yeah. okay,
All right. Short-term rental update, we have had 222 short-term rentals registered since 1/1 of this year. Last week, we sent out roughly 60+ letters to the property owners who their addresses have been identified but have not yet registered. So
Have we sent out notices to all that were registered last year?
we did.
Okay, last year we had over 400,
Last year, we had, yes.
so it's still over 200 and some
There
odd.
were 222 additional, right?
Nope, these,
No,
no,
total.
222.
This is renewal.
Oh, gotcha,
222.
gotcha.
The 60 that's I've been identified, we're at
280.
282.
280.
280, so there's still
Thank you.
under 20 or so from last year, plus others that may have been identified.
Yeah.
So, they, Granicus should get on them, because we know that they're actively renting out short-term rentals.
We do, but we were able to identify, so we didn't send out letters to anyone that didn't have a, that their last documented stay was over a year ago. We didn't send out, a notice to anyone like that. We wanted to wait, until we got through, because the way they break down the timeframes, it's like 1 to 7 days, and then 8 to 30 days, and then 31 to 61. We wanted to get at least 2 months into the year so we could get into that 60-day category, so we know that they rented in 24. So
Gotcha.
then we could send them a letter and saying, we know you had a documented stay in January of 24 or February of
okay.
24,
Alright.
so we know you're renting, because we didn't want to send one to a letter that said, oh, I only did it once in September and I'm no longer doing it, or I only did it once last summer and I'm no longer doing it. So we're kind of are phasing it out. We were a little bit nervous to send the letters out the first time, or the second time, because the first time we kind of had a fiasco when it happened, because it included all the timeshares and it included all the cabins. And so we really were selective in the letters we sent out. We cross-referenced them with our assessing records. So we got a good grasp of, all right, here's 65 letters that we know that they're currently renting. They've rented in the last 8 days, or they've rented in the last, and then we'll just continue to do that every few months to, make sure we're staying on top of things.
okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Does anyone receive the letter again?
A letter of,
Of not registration?
oh, I
Any
don't,
has any, like me?
Mm-hmm.
No? Was I on the list?
who you were?
I think you were.
The heck, OJ.
Wait a minute now.
No, I registered mine at the end of last year.
Oh, you did in
for this
December?
year.
Oh, okay. Maybe you weren't on the list then of the 1/1s, because we just cut it off at 1/1. You did it in December?
Oh, I definitely paid,
Okay.
yeah, it was in December though, because it was
Okay.
due 1/1. Or it was supposed to be.
It's supposed to be due 1/1, yes.
Yeah. No, it's paid.
Okay, good.
I
Did
don't,
anyone receive
get
a
it
letter
right?
like?
Right. Have you say, yeah, not mine. No, okay.
I'm not gonna pay it.
Okay,
I don't have a short-term rental, so I wouldn't got one.
Right, no, I don't
I have
think
a
you do either,
long-term-
right?
I have one long-term
That was a
rental.
pointed question. That was very subtle. I like that.
I know,
Smooth.
I like how it's, yeah.
OJ, pay your fee, no, just kidding. On the back, so on the back, we have a lot of kind of moving parts when it comes to the activities and projects and projects. So I cut it down to stuff that's actually happening right then and now.
Okay.
We'll go back to the old thing, but I didn't want to have a whole nother page of the projects, but
Gotcha.
Riverfront Park, so I received a draft grant application for the funds, to complete the remedial action plan. We do plan to submit this to the EPA in this upcoming week. I reviewed it, I went over it with Ray Corber, it's pretty, it's a pretty standard form, but, we're hoping to get that in. However,
You said that's attached. I don't see a copy.
oh, did I not make copies of it? I have one right here if you'd like.
Stick with it.
Yeah, like I said, it's pretty standard. It's the Brownsfield, it's DES's
Yep.
application, so.
How much are we seeking?
I think it's $10,000 to finish, to do the remedial action plan with DES.
And that'll tell us how much is gonna be needed to be spent. So
Um,
we'll pay 10,000 to ask, that doesn't tell us how much we have to spend.
Yes,
I
exactly.
love it,
Right.
It's, yeah.
love it.
However, in addition to that, I was contacted last week by NCIC, which is Northern Community Investment Corporation, and they have been acquired, or they've been bought out by New Hampshire Community Fund regarding the VT Rail Systems interest in that parcel. They are looking to find a parcel of land in which they could do a timber, now I'm drawing a blank exactly what she said, but essentially a transit for timber products, essentially a distribution.
Like a log yard?
I don't wanna call it a log yard, because they want to be able to access the rail system so they can ship timber products to to Vermont, essentially.
So they wanna bring,
A transloading facility, that's what they called it.
so they wanna
Interesting.
bring timber to that site, load it on a train
You got it,
and go to Vermont. with
and
it.
go to Vermont with it. I explained to them that this parcel is part of a bigger project in our Riverfront Park, and I explained the contamination and that we are already involved in a Brownsfield application and whatnot, and they still would like to meet. So I am meeting with them this Friday to hear what I guess they have to say.
Interesting.
You don't see this?
I'd like to talk
The
to them.
application?
Doesn't hurt.
I
to
looked
sit
at it.
down with
It
them.
doesn't hurt to,
I mean,
I guess
Absolutely
it
not.
doesn't hurt to understand what they are interested
Yeah.
in, or if
It's- yeah.
potential, if they have, if there's a potential partnership in the cleanup, I don't know if the cleanup is gonna be, I guess it's not bad to either, I don't wanna call it a plan B, but it's not bad
Right,
to
right,
understand
right.
what they're interested in, what
Absolutely.
they're, looking for. Their main goal, as they did say, is
Rail.
the rail to Vermont. I guess they can get to Vermont from that location, and they're looking for grant funding, or they have grant funding in order to build a facility or build something like this, or to purchase land for this purpose. So,
Yeah, I mean, it'd be good to hear from them. This cursory,
yeah,
it doesn't sound that.
like I said, I explained to them
Yeah.
that this is part of a
We've got a-
decades-long
we've got a
project.
master plan
Right.
there, doesn't include, Tammy put it a log yet.
Right.
I mean, that brings all kinds of traffic.
And they're
heavy-duty
only
traffic.
interested in the, well, from what I gather, I guess I don't know definitively, is not the whole parcel, not the 19 acres or whatever it is. It's just that corner piece that attaches to
To the railroad.
the railroad, correct? Which is its own separate lot right now on our tax maps. More to come.
It's worth the conversation.
Oh,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
see,
Have a
you know.
conversation.
So, I will follow up with more on that next week.
Thank you.
Okay,
You're welcome. Route 3 water main improvements. We received feedback late last week from DOT regarding our initial submission of construction plans. Sam Kenny is coordinating this with his team to address the comments. The comment that stuck out the most, which we kind of knew was coming, was the off ramps for, I'm not gonna call it 33, it's 34A. The directional boring, that was their main comment. We knew that was gonna be their comment, and we knew that was gonna be kind of our hurdle with them, so Sam is working with his team to address those comments. But at least we received some feedback on the
Mhm.
plans. South Peak Water Storage Tank, the geotechnical work was scheduled to begin this Friday. I saw Nate this morning and I totally forgot to ask him, but I will double check on that, but it was scheduled to start on Friday. So that ball is rolling as well. New police station construction. So construction on the new PD is in full swing. We are at 70% completion on the foundations and the footings. We passed all inspections in regards to that as well. Action items that are being addressed currently is site signage. We should have site signage this week, which will be a nice picture of the PD.
Picture of
with-
my face.
Yeah, picture of your face, picture of the PD and the contractors and, you know, kind of coming soon stuff, so people know
Cool.
what's going on down there. So that should hopefully happen this week, if not, early next. New Hampshire Electric Co-op easements and transformer procurement. So we were notified last week that we will need 2 easements for that property. One you have in front of you, which will be an easement on our own land for the poles and the lines that need to be installed. The abutter, Jane O'Connor, is that her name? Jane O'Connor, yeah.
Yep.
She also will need to sign an easement, because they need to add, anchors, wire anchors from the pole to stabilize the pole because of the additional weight and the equipment that's going on. But I've already spoken to her. She is fine with it. I've sent her the easement and I believe her daughter is coming up next week for Mass Vacation Week and we should have that all settled and squared away. So, easements are not an issue at this moment. Transformer procurement. So we have worked with the co-op to kind of cut our timeline down to when we can get a transformer and potentially get a loaner until our permanent one comes in. However, the quote we received from the co-op to start this work order was $43,000. And this was not an expense that BPS was anticipating, or LBA was anticipating, or obviously the town was anticipating. From what I've been told from John, at La Valley and him talking to BPS is that traditionally they're a couple $1,000s, maybe $10,000, for that work order and equipment procurement. Ours happens to be 43 and change. So I asked for an itemized breakdown of what that $43,000 covers and what is not covered essentially. And I was told by NHEC that, at this time, NHEC does not produce an itemized breakdown. The quote provided for construction services will cover all necessary items that for NHEC to provide power to the meter pedestal. And then it continues to go on. So, just for curiosity's sake, I called Brian Norton to see what he procured a transformer for. I have a meeting with Dennis Ducharme at 11 tomorrow on something else. I'm gonna ask him what the co-op charged him to try to get a comparison of, is this a realistic number? Or, is this somehow, John said that in some communities, the electricity provider builds it into their monthly bill, like they get an additional $500 or $300 every month onto their bill to pay it off over a 10-year life cycle or whatever it is. They are surprised by this price tag as well. And my major concern with it is that's a huge chunk of our contingency at the moment. So after my discussion, Brian Norton said that the transformer they bought this year, obviously much greater in size, was $180,000. So he said, in my personal opinion, hearing 40 grand get quoted is not crazy. But like I said, I want to talk to Dennis, see what he says, and then I will call Bill Johnstone myself tomorrow. I told John and LBA that I'd call him and try to get more definitive information on what this covers, what it doesn't cover, because I also heard that they told John that this is also going to be for future development on the parcel, which essentially is the fire department. I want to know how much of that is included in the $40,000 or $43,000. Also, I had another thing going. I lost my train of thought though, but we gotta get more information, because like I said, it's a big chunk of change that no one really anticipated.
You wanna make a motion to hold up the check until we get an itemized?
I haven't even put it in,
Okay.
so. But again, the longer it takes us to figure out this piece, the longer we will have to wait on the transfer.
Do you know if this $40,000 transformer is a single ground mounted unit, or is it a dual, two different poles up on the poles
It's a new three-phase, it's a on the ground.
on the ground?
On the ground, new three-phase service with primary, overhead, and underground 2-meter CT cabinet on backboard. That's what they put on the invoice, but that's not enough information. Also, you know, John had said, they say it covers poles, but how many poles are they proposing? We want to cross-reference that with our electrician's plans to make sure that we're being charged an appropriate amount. We don't need 3 poles. If they're estimating 3 poles, why would, we don't, you know, we want to know what this estimate covers. And I
Right.
think NHEC should be able to give us a better understanding of what it covers and not just say, we don't produce an itemized breakdown.
Agreed.
How'd you get to this number then?
Yeah,
Right.
Exactly.
yeah.
There's gotta be
that's fair.
some,
I'd like to see the hat that it came.
and again, this didn't come from Bill, so obviously our, you know, our point of contact there, so I'll wait till I talk to Dennis and then I'll contact Bill tomorrow and see if we can't get it straightened out, or if there is a potential to, can we pay for 50% a deposit of it and then 50% goes on to our monthly billing cycle or something along those lines, so we're not having to take a huge chunk of change out of our contingency right now.
And with that payment, what is the new estimated timeline for actually getting it? Is it still 24 months?
24 months, but they think that we will be able to get a loaner,
A loaner, yeah.
right,
To put in there?
to put
until-
in there to take out when ours comes, our
Right.
permanent one comes on delivery, yes.
Okay, and has there been any, option considered for the 2 different ones pole mounted?
Yes, they did look into that, and I think they were trying to evaluate if they could get the electricity, the kilowatts down to where they could do that on the pole mounted, and they didn't think it was the best decision.
Okay.
But again, still in discussions because everyone, I think, is sticker shock at this price tag.
All right.
Okay.
Let's-
So
let's
that,
do that.
so that's new building, but we are meeting now every Thursday on the new building. It's, the superintendent on site, Kevin, our project manager at BPS, myself, John Adams, our project manager at LBA. We have a set schedule every Thursday at 10 a.m. now on Zoom. So if anyone ever wants to participate, I can send you the link, but that is a standing every Thursday now, so. At least that's good, because we're being kept up to date, and again, they're providing pictures and whatnot, so. Last action item for the PV is the radio tower location. So at the last construction meeting we had on Thursday, there was concerns with the height of the tower is tough because it's part of our simulcasting. We're trying to hit Loon's tower. It needs to be, it's large.
Okay,
It's very large. So the base of the structure is much larger than what we had anticipated on the site plan. We had the structure on the site plan, I think it was 16 by 16. It needs to be 23 by 23. So we had concerns that that wasn't going to fit where we had originally put it on the site plan, which was close to the building and where the radio room is. We didn't know if that was gonna fit anymore. After talking to Ospey Mountain Electronics, and the reasoning behind the height and the pad and whatnot, and we wanted, first, the major concern was, what is the clearance to the building? Are we too close to the building? Are we gonna be able to get this in? So after powwowing with OME and with the architects and with the chiefs downstairs, we are, we can keep the tower in a similar location. We'll have to change the radius of the driveway slightly in that turn to accommodate both potential fire trucks in the future and also other vehicles. But we can keep it in its same exact location, which will be right next to the building on the backside. So that kind of crisis has been averted. We were thinking we were gonna have to move it to the opposite side of the parcel, but then wiring it to the building from the opposite side of the parcel is gonna be a significant expense in order to do so. So good news is we can keep it in its current location and just tweak the driveway a little bit, so.
Good.
um,
Before you move on, we have a proposed easement here for the New Hampshire Electric Co-op to
Mhm.
put the underground lines and all that on that parcel.
Mhm.
Um. So this needs to be signed. I didn't see anything wrong with it. I just wanted to bring it up before we sign. I don't know if we need to vote on that, but we're granting an easement on town property.
I mean, I think you can, just to, you know, if you wanted to make it more formal, but no, I don't think you need to. I mean, it's our property, you know.
All right, so it's granting them the right and easement to lay, construct, reconstruct, operate, maintain, replace, and remove lines for the transmission of intelligence by energy into the transmission of electricity, as either or both of the grantees may from time to time desire through the adjacent properties on or over or under our land in the town of Lincoln.
Specific to
width-
that parcel, yeah.
Yeah, the width of the right of way shall not exceed 15 feet on each side of the pole and or ditch line. Necessary guy wires and anchors may be located outside of the right of way. And that's,
So, man, we're giving ourselves an easement.
yeah,
Right. I'll make a motion that we sign the easement, with NHEC.
second,
Second,
all those in favor?
Aye.
And then lastly, I just put a status update of the pictures. This is what it looked like in January, and then that's what it looked like last week. So. I think we might put some on the website, you know,
Oh, nice.
show some
Yeah, let's
profit
do
for
that.
people who aren't here. That's all I have as of, right now. I do have, some non-public items, but
Okay. All right, do you have
I had
anything?
one
Go
thing.
ahead.
I think as a result of the short-term rental proposed ordinance that we presented and then rescinded and whatnot, a lot of people have been looking online on our website to see when things are scheduled, and folks that aren't normally attend meetings and whatnot, and said the calendar is terrible. They go to town calendar and there's nothing there. There's no upcoming events ever. And you can go back, you can go forward, and there's nothing. So I went and looked. All upcoming events, 0. So if, and I don't know if it's cumbersome to update the calendar, and if it is, take it off. Just don't have it on there.
got it.
And if it's not cumbersome, then maybe we should update it.
Yeah, I have no idea either, so I'll have
Yeah.
to talk to Jane with that. Jane usually
Yeah.
monitors, or does the maintenance.
Yeah,
So,
and it could be that it's a.
But, and that's why we don't.
And so let's just take it off of there.
But let's take
Yeah.
it off.
But we could do at least the
Board.
standing meetings, you know, the
Right.
planning board,
Planning
BOS,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
ones that don't change.
and you
very
don't
often.
have to do it on a calendar. You could just do it in verbiage that says the upcoming events are X, Y, Z by date. That's all.
Well, exactly, you could do that, but I did go on and look to see, okay, how, if I didn't know where to find it, where would I know and when the selectmen are meeting? And you literally have to go in minutes and agendas, you have to pick agendas, you have to pick the year, then you have to go. And if for some reason an agenda doesn't get posted, you don't know what, and they don't usually get posted till, Thursday or Friday
Friday,
before.
yeah.
So if you're looking Tuesday to see when the next meeting is, it's not on there. So it is a little difficult to determine when the next meeting is, if you're not familiar with when the
Yeah.
next meeting is.
I mean, at the very least, we could
Right.
just take that spreadsheet that we all use and plug it in. there.
Sure, yeah,
You
anything,
know, like, here's our 2024 meeting schedule. It has
Right.
them all laid out.
right. And then planning, and it's something across the board that the planning board meets the first and third,
Sure.
whatever it is.
We'll look into it. see
Something,
enough, yeah.
something, yeah,
Yeah.
and,
Yeah.
cause they weren't wrong,
Right, once the, once the town report is done.
right?
Right,
Yeah.
right, that's obviously. priority.
But
But,
if, just take a look on there from somebody who doesn't know when they are,
Okay.
and see how difficult it is to find
try to
out when
find
they
it.
are,
Okay.
right, yeah.
I can do that.
Do you have anything?
That's it.
I just wanted to give one update, I'm sorry,
I think you should answer that.
the potential spam?
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's what the whole means. It might be my car warranty, right? No, I wanted to, just update, we had a meeting, Karina and Nate and I, with the New Hampshire Electric Co-op down at, the substation down here to talk about possibly working the, right of way we have for pedestrian access. We have, again, none of this is developed, it just exists on paper, there's nothing
right,
there,
right,
but we
right.
have the right to park up between the substation and approximately down to the big billboard sign that's there,
Mhm.
okay, in that area. We have a legal pedestrian easement going from that down over the steep bank and joining the existing path to get down to Old Hole that goes between the substation and Lincoln Station.
Yep,
And then, of course, we have the recreation easement along the levee.
Mhm.
We were talking with the co-op to see if there was a more practical, usable, walkable place to put the pedestrian
Pedestrian
easement.
access.
And, you know, our original request was behind the substation on a little bit of flat land before the steep bank.
Mhm.
And, you know, they were very good, but they said, okay, like there are, ground rods underneath
underground
that
utility,
land.
yeah.
And there was a big wire, cause there's a pole between
Yeah.
the fence and anyway, so the real answer is no,
No, right.
all right?
They would have to change the fence height because
Right.
it couldn't be so many feet from
Yeah.
the fence, because that's only
Yeah.
rated for
And
pedestrians.
move the underground
being-
utility.
Right, once we
Right,
started
right,
talking
right.
about all the things that would be required to do, it's like, okay, this is
Not gonna
Not gonna happen.
crazy,
Right.
craziness. So we looked at other things and the idea that they're looking at now is instead of going behind the fence, is to go between the fence and Route 112
Oh,
and stay X number of feet away from the fence, their fence, because that would avoid the
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 increase in height. yeah.
heightened thing, heightened
Mhm.
fencing. And the ground rods that are underneath there, and
Sure.
all of that would be able
Would
to
limit the
avoid.
number of trees we would have to cut because there were so many, the trees are holding the fence structure in and the root
Gotcha.
system.
Right,
and, yeah.
that was another problem with the rear side.
Right.
So anyway, we'd avoid a lot of the problems. It would be a slightly longer walk than going straight behind, but not
But a much flatter.
like, 30 seconds more of walking is not a
Right,
big
right,
deal
right,
when
right,
you're going down to Old Hole for a day. So anyway,
Still accessing it from like the west side of that, or over where we go through now?
we're gonna park on this side.
Yeah,
That's where our parking is.
yeah, right, right, right,
Okay,
right.
we'd
We're gonna
walk
walk down 112.
right in front of the
Around.
substation and around the corner to where the
Where we
parking
go
lot
anyway, yeah.
is anyway in the existing path. So,
Didn't,
So how-
when we met one time with Bogosian, and he indicated that he would be willing to make an easier path across the easement that we hold.
I don't think he'd be willing to make it, he'd be willing to potentially give us access.
And
to
he,
it.
he said if we would if he were doing current construction, he could assist, but
Right.
not do it for
right,
us.
and he is open to that.
Yeah.
But I think that was kind of dependent on what their final plan is gonna
Right.
look like.
Exactly.
Right.
You know, ideally, we go down the old road that still
Yeah,
exists. I
still
mean, you
there,
can
right.
walk down that, you know,
Easy.
4 people
But
wide.
who
it's
knows
a
what
big
he's, there
swath.
might be a house there or something, who
Well,
knows,
well, if
yeah,
he uses that for his road,
right.
you know, anyway,
Right.
that's
Now,
also a possibility.
We have the parking, that's
Yeah.
ours anyway, right,
Mhm.
by the
Yeah.
fence, whatever. And then you walk around to where we park already, why not just keep parking there where we're not supposed to?
I'm not
Devil's
saying,
advocate.
I'm not saying we need to get rid of that,
Okay,
okay? At some point, there's gonna be a problem. Right now, on a busy day, people park in facing the
Mhm.
Lincoln Station, which isn't a problem.
Mhm.
But then they overflow up to the fence and on top of the ground rods and block the gate where they
gotcha,
used to get in. Okay, when and if they come out and say, you know, we're putting up a bigger fence,
putting
cause
up
you
a
can't.
fence, right, yeah.
Yep,
I
yep,
mean,
yep.
okay, now we have space for 2 cars.
Okay.
Now what are we gonna do?
gotcha,
We have a place for them to go. Let's have a place for them to walk. Let's
gotcha,
get it set.
perfect,
I'm not thinking we need to develop any of this stuff immediately, but just kind of,
We will most
Yeah.
likely have to, work something out with DOT, though. right?
Yeah, if we go along
If
the,
we go along,
their road,
yeah,
right.
Right,
But I don't-
but it looks as if the right of way right there is much larger than what it necessarily.
It is, and we have, and one thing they pointed out is we have one of
The
those.
sidewalk on the exact
On the
side.
side, that's what, 3 feet of
Mhm, mhm,
dirt
right.
between the
Right on top of
roadway
the
and
road,
the.
right, much closer to the road. than
Right.
what we're walking
So-
on, Yeah.
So anyway, they thought that that was a more practical, but the other thing we learned, which I was not aware of, is underneath this
Mhm.
easement that we have for parking, there's a buried electric line between the concrete vault on one end and the concrete vault on the other end. Underneath the ground, there's a thing, and it's not made to be driven over.
Interesting. Between the substation and the vault?
Well, between vault 1 and vault 2.
Oh, gotcha. Oh, okay.
So
I
that
get
could
you.
be a potential that we would have to, if we were gonna direct parking there, we might have to potentially stabilize.
Stabilizing
that
that,
line.
and they kind of made it sound like that's not a big deal, they do that all the time. But you throw money at the problem and it's not a big deal.
Right.
Just
You
like
know?
our $40,000 transport,
Right, right.
you know,
You
not a
don't
big
want
deal, but.
$40,000 transport. So anyway, those are just things that came up. None of those are urgent, none of those need to be solved immediately, but
Yeah.
just wanted to update you on that meeting.
Awesome.
One minor thing, you know, we had the death of one of our employees recently, that time we did.
Mm,
We're assisting his family in whatever
are,
way we
yeah.
can.
Yeah, we are.
That's unfortunate.
I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, thank you.
We should have a sympathy card and sign it on behalf of the
Yes,
town.
we
We are, okay, all right. I mean, he was a nice,
Yes,
real nice guy.
Yeah. Jane's working with her on a couple different things.
Okay.
So.
Okay.
Thank you.
we're good.
Fantastic.
She's.
Thank you
we're
for
in
your
contact,
efforts.
Yeah.
All right, then, I'll open up for public participation. Tammy, you here for something, I assume? Go ahead.
Guys all know that time I am recording. Given past history here in proven information, I'm coming to you guys directly for yet another request where my prior request on the ended up being on. So, my current situation. I want to bypass. I have. On. Said one of the things that we talked what. Again. Elected. Yeah. My property.
Okay,
Right.
do you have anything that shows when it was back at 2 different properties?
It was on 2 different bills when I got married. We're going on 31 years Wednesday. So I know where my stuff is. But yes, I can find it, but back when it went on. Hall. Something I found. She had.
Does your deed show parcel A and parcel B or
When I bought my house, I bought it from my parents.
right? I'm trying
I
to,
bought it for like 43,000. I spent on it. I got the property. After that, I bought it from my father sold the condo, so I don't know what's in that. Because I do have.
Did
So,
you?
so wait, are those the two parcels that you're talking about? Where your house is and then across the river?
Oh, gotcha, okay.
Oh, so you have two separate deeds?
Two separate deeds.
You could just
Okay.
do a voluntary merger.
No,
No,
it's,
we
it's,
did she's saying that the town involuntarily
Oh,
merged them
it was an
without her knowledge.
involuntary land merger. yeah.
And,
Got
and the way I understand state law is if
Any
she
of them can
notifies
become
us of
back.
that,
We
we,
have to
we
do-
can't say no.
Correct.
So you're coming to us and asking if we can say yes? We
We
can't
have
say
to.
no.
We have to say yes.
Right.
Okay, I'm just calling what girl.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I'm honoring her, I'm honoring myself.
I do think that the selectmen do need it in writing. This request has to be made in writing with documentation. So copies of your deeds, more than just a note saying, please unmerge these two parcels.
Right, just so we have,
Right,
document-
it has to be in writing.
something that
Even
says
if
that
it's-
you gave us permission
To unmerge them.
Yeah.
unmerge them.
Please unmerge these two parcels as discussed on February
Whatever, yeah,
12th.
yeah.
One sentence.
Yeah.
Two deeds, you're
You
done.
know, it's like-
Sure.
You're-
Okay.
Fantastic.
Yeah,
That's
and we'll
easy.
just have to try to hope that we have a plan so we can see where those lot lines are,
Yeah.
you know, so we
Is
can
the,
mimic them
is the
again.
back land landlocked?
It would be, yes,
Yes,
by the school and the condos and your parents' land
right,
and the
Right.
one private home.
yes.
But it's, if you needed to, but it doesn't matter if it's landlocked or not, because if she wanted to sell or develop or something, she would have to provide access to it through the front property first.
Which is
So,
no problem. but
right.
I have no intention to sell it, But if I did, I would probably, if condo association out back. was interested in it,
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Oh,
And
Oh,
then they would have to provide,
and that
yeah,
would be legal, as long as
Yeah.
there's access to it, legal access to it.
right.
Okay,
But, that's what I came for.
Yeah, well, that was an easy one.
yeah,
Originally, I was thinking of offering it to them. But when my dad was dying, I took priority to my dad.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
But So I won't offer it to him right now. I suppose I can throw it out there.
all right, just send us that and it'll, I don't know how long it'll take, but I mean, it's a simple thing.
Let's, if I do well,
That's fine.
Taxes, I one that I know where my stuff is. I can take week to 2 weeks to.
Yeah, the only deadline that you wanna make sure that you hit with us is that the state requires anything that is the way that it is on April 1 is how it's taxed that whole year.
Correct.
So if you want it for this tax separately for 24, we'll need to have it before April 1.
Now, as long as it's done, it really doesn't matter to me. It's done.
Okay.
That's good to know, though. Yeah.
Yeah, just so, you know,
Right.
because if we get it on April 15th, we're gonna have to tax it that way
Sure.
until.
Yeah,
next
yeah.
year. Right.
Perfect.
Okay.
Oh, good.
And if you can't find any documents, Timmy, I'm sure we can find out through the town that we can help.
Right, well,
If you have the two deeds, you're good.
Two deeds is, yeah.
I got. Tax.
Oh, perfect.
Right.
Good. Yeah.
Add another thing to it. So I appreciate your time.
Thanks for coming in.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. I've made trust in this down here now, so just know that in the next 2 weeks, we'll probably be.
Excellent. Thank you.
All right.
Sounds
thank you
good.
very
Thank
much.
you.
Good night.
Absolutely. No, just kidding.
Yeah.
Watching on YouTube, these meetings, planning board meetings. Audio
Yeah.
lousy.
We've looked into microphones for the tables and those will be forthcoming. Once after town meeting, once we have a budget to work with, we'll,
Okay.
yeah, absolutely. You're not the only one.
I don't like people scaring other towns. I've heard much down here, I got on YouTube and I looked at little things, other.
So you're not the only one. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
and. And that, then, I hear Judge Nard say a lot to people in the back, talk up, we can't hear you. Well, we can't hear you from the back either, so.
Yeah.
If there's something that can.
We're looking
Yeah,
at
we're looking
table
into it.
microphones and then moving that to the audience and, we're definitely looking into it, but we don't know exactly what we're gonna do until after town meeting and we know what we have for a budget.
Very good.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Very much.
Good night. Okay, Paul, you had your hand up?
Yeah, I did. Couldn't hear a single word Tammy said
Oh.
tonight.
I thought you meant me. I'm like, are you kidding? You can hear me?
No, you went, so from the back of the table where Tammy or Jeanette was tonight, couldn't hear nothing. Could hear the 3, 4 of you fine. I understand Tammy said, Ham said something about when the budget's approved, you're gonna be able to get some new microphones, but whatever you have there is not working very well. And I can't
Agreed.
imagine there's not enough money currently in the budget to be able to fix what you have. That
It's not necessarily a budget call. We're trying to figure out a system that's not gonna create feedback with having 6 microphones in this room.
Right.
So we're trying to look into a package, where it's like 3 tabletops and a podium mic or something,
An
so
affordable.
we're
package,
not
yeah.
going to create a feedback scenario where we have 4 open mics in a 50 square foot room or whatever it is,
Right.
well, they make audio visual people. Should be able to do that for you, but
That's why we got a
It-
capital reserve
Yeah.
project, a capital reserve fund for that, right?
We're gonna
Yeah.
hire sign language too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
you have all sorts of money that wasn't spent this year, so you'll be able to figure out something. Anyway, it's
New
not
year,
working.
so we
Just
can't do
wanted to
that.
let you know, didn't hear a single word she said. Thank you. Have a good night.
All right,
Thanks,
Thank
thanks.
you, Paul.
David, did you have anything? You don't have to answer if you didn't have anything. Thank you for tuning in. Do we have, what's there before we go to non-public?
Oh, yeah, great. All right, we have the easement for the co-op I signed, the sale of the lot in the business park. Has everybody signed this?
No, Jack needs to.
Jack needs to. Okay, all of those things are
Jane, you're notarizing that, yeah? Do
signatures. Yeah, and you have his driver's license?
you have your license on you, Jack?
She'll make
Do you
a
have your
copy of
driver's
it.
license on
The top thing says that we don't have to go to the closing. But as the notary, she needs our 3 licenses.
Okay.
To bring to the closing.
bring to
so
the
we can-
closing.
Mine's suspended. What do I do? Shouldn't say that.
So,
We call downstairs and let them know.
so anyway, if we sign all of that stuff and give her the driver's license, we
You
don't have to go to that
attend- yeah.
closing, so
I'm
that,
gonna take that off my calendar.
yeah, I'm gonna do that too.
Yeah, they're
All
gonna
right,
come pick
that
up
we
the
had-
documents tomorrow morning or Wednesday.
The
Thank
I'll
you.
be right back.
Thank you.
letter of map amendment, a revision, application maps and all of that is here, but like we've already talked about what we're gonna do with that. And then the,
I only found out your real name.
Warren,
All right.
is that what it's printed? Yeah.
Who
The,
asked?
brownfields application is there. That's all that's in that folder. Oops, wait a minute.
That's the equalization stuff.
Oh,
We talked about
equalization,
that,
we already
yeah.
talked about that.
Is that it?
Yeah,
And I'll make a motion to go into non-public. What are we going to non-public for?
My bill initial Well,
Can you just, correct it and initial it?
initial.
Yeah.
Why are we going into non-public?
We have a legal update and also a personnel update.
I'll make a motion to go into non-public for a legal update and a personnel update.
you seconding that?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye. Can I have a 2-minute break?
Yeah, let's take a 2-minute break and that needs to be, well,
Yeah.
everybody's off that.
Karina, where the notary signed, I shouldn't change that. They should change that, correct?